So you're a full-grown human, but you love the autumnal taste of cinnamon rolls? These incredible looking Swedish breads are just the thing for you. Pause here if you need the ingredients for a rich milk dough. Once we're good with that, we're going to combine together our butter and milk and bring them up to a nice warm temperature. We don't need them hot, we just need the butter melted so that it will combine with the milk. We're going to use that warm butter and milk mixture as a liquid to dissolve our instant yeast. We've got 7 grams of that. Now, I don't know, I've heard people say that you shouldn't mix your yeast with fats because it sort of creates a laminating effect and slows down how quickly they activate. I haven't really noticed that to be a problem with this recipe. If I'm way off, please comment below. But I think that pre-mixing does a better job of dispersing the yeast throughout the dough to begin with and makes it more certain that you'll get an even rise. So, stir things together. It's an enriched dough, that means it's going to be quite easy to handle when it's finished, but there's not a huge amount of moisture in there to begin with, so this is going to be a reasonably stiff dough. It's not going to be the kind of thing you're used to if you've been making these big puffy breads. It's going to be more along the lines of a bagel dough or even slightly stiffer than that. Flour that work surface, pull it out and get to work kneading. You should need a little bit of flour here, but the dough isn't outrageously sticky, so it should be straightforward to work with. Simply push it away and pull it back towards yourself, push and pull and fold. We want to keep going till it feels smooth and well combined and even. It should be really quite firm by the time you're done with this. And that's it. Tidy up, stick it in a bowl and cover it up ready for its rise. If you're making a video for YouTube, take that extra time to get it nice and centered in the screen before you put the towel on it. And whoosh, okay. Leave it to one side, we're going to need some filling for the middle of these. It's a super basic combination of spice, butter and sugar with a little bit of vanilla extract to sweeten things. So grab a small bowl and throw everything together. There's nothing complicated about this stage of things. We just need to keep working it with a wooden spoon until it's really well combined. Now again, I've used allspice twice in this recipe. Traditionally, I think, based on what I've read, that would be a ground cardamom powder you would use rather than allspice. But good luck finding that anywhere in the shops in the UK. You can order it online, but this was kind of an impulse bake, so I didn't have time to take that step in the preparation. Like I said, just keep on working and working and working. If you see smears of butter, you need to keep going. If it's a nice consistent shade of brown, you can stop. This took maybe 5 minutes of my time to just push it about the bowl until it was done. I wouldn't worry too much about that little extra bit of time it takes to go through that stage, because as you work you're warming up the mixture and the next step is to laminate that into the dough. So plenty flour here on both the work surface and the top of your dough. We don't have a high chance of it sticking, but we're going to be working the dough till it's reasonably thin, and as it gets thinner it will get slightly stickier. So grab yourself a rolling pin and just keep working until you've got a reasonably large area. We need to get all of our mixture into this dough, so maybe 1.5 foot by 1 foot, slightly bigger than that even. You can see most of my tabletop here and my hands are a point of reference. You know, this was big enough, but it could have even been slightly bigger. Grab your mixture, spread little balls of it across the dough that you've just rolled out. We need to get pretty much even coverage across everything, and this step will make it more straightforward to do that. And then using the back of a metal spoon, just push down gently, not to tear the dough, but firm enough to spread it. And if you start gently and build up the pressure, you'll quickly work out exactly how hard you can push on this without ripping the dough. At this stage, your kitchen should stink of autumnal goodness. But I did have a little thought as I was working, and perhaps this recipe would be really well adapted to using ginger as one of the main ingredients as you're filling. It might be a hotter, tangier spice than you would get with the allspice, and so it might not be quite as cozy and comfortable, but you'd get a really awesome hit of ginger throughout these. Next time I make them, that's definitely something I'm going to try. What we've done here as we pull on the opposite sides is create a lamination in our dough. This is something that's more common with a puff pastry, or people use it to add fillings, but what it's going to do is give layers of pastry between filling. When we start cutting these and twisting them later, those layers are going to show, and it's a beautiful marbling effect on the outside of your pastry. For now though, we need to make sure everything's nice and thin, so we're just rolling out a little bit further. And to make our life easier in the next stage, which is twisting, we're going to square off our slab of pastry. So once you've done that, I like to work on a chopping board purely for the benefit of my wife's sanity. And we cut our dough into 2 centimeter thick strips. We want to make sure that we've gone right through it. As you work, you'll probably want a knife on the side anyway, because they will fuse back together while you're twisting. Now I'm really sorry, because I could have done a much better job of keeping the camera on these as I make them. But what you want to do is gently pull and twist so you lengthen out your strand, and you see that beautiful marbling layered effect happening between the dough. The motion to create those knots is once around the finger, halfway again, and then push an end through the bottom. So your 2 ends should end up in the middle, contained within this outer ring of dough. As we get through these, there is one where I managed to keep it on camera, and you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about there, but it's not difficult. It just takes a little bit of time to get the process right first time. We have a tray that's maybe 18 inches by 8 inches here, and I was able to get around 11 of these into it. So that's 2 rows of 4 and then 3 in the gaps. Those offcuts, if you want to roll them out, you can use them to make a few extra. They might not be as neat and tidy, but it would be a waste not to. Or alternatively, just go for the classic cinnamon roll. Just roll them up, cut them thin, and bake them in wheels rather than in these knots. It works just as good. It tastes awesome. You don't need to worry about being pretty for the ones you're just going to snack on. Cover it up, tidy things up, and leave it to rise for another half hour. While we're going through this cleaning process, I'd love to know if you guys appreciate the voiceover in these videos. I am super self-conscious of my monotonous Scottish accent, and 7 minutes of me yakking on is probably enough to bore most people to tears. But I do feel that it adds some clarity to the recipe, so let me know what you think. If you're happy listening to me, I'll keep doing it. It's a little bit of work and I'm a little bit self-conscious, but if you'd rather just have some sweet lo-fi jazz in the background, that's all good. So moving back to the recipe, we've made ourselves an egg glaze. That's done by using 1 egg and around 50 milliliters of water. Just cold tap water, nothing fancy. You could maybe flavour this with a little bit of sugar, which would add more browning and sweetness, but these are pretty sweet already. Just get a good covering on all sides. You want to make sure that you're painting this down towards the bottom. I'm cooking on a non-stick pan, so I'm not too worried about the glaze fusing the bake to the bottom. If you are, maybe just make sure and line whatever you're baking in with parchment paper or non-stick. And that's it. Give them 15 minutes in the oven at around 200 Celsius and you will be rewarded with these outrageously delicious, truly stunning looking cinnamon rolls. Enjoy, like, follow, subscribe. Till next time.